The massive silver ship appeared in Earth's orbit on a Tuesday morning. It was so large that people could see it with their bare eyes, hanging in the sky like a second moon. Within hours, every telescope on the planet pointed upward, and every government scrambled to understand what they were looking at. The ship belonged to the Galactic Council, though the humans did not know this yet. Inside the vessel, High Chancellor Vexitar studied the blue planet below through the viewing screens. His tall, thin body swayed gently as he moved, his forearms working at different control panels. Like all Zeltharians, he had evolved from creatures that lived in trees, and his people valued careful planning above all else. "Another primitive world," said Admiral Kethmore, entering the command chamber. The admiral belonged to a different species called the hegemony. He was shorter than Vextar, but much wider, with thick gray skin and small black eyes. His people had once been prey animals on their homeworld, and they still preferred to avoid fights when possible. Vextar nodded slowly. "The scans show they have barely reached their own moon. They fight wars with chemical explosives and metal projectiles. This should be simple. The Galactic Council had done this many times before. For over 2,000 years, they had brought peace to the galaxy using the same method. When they found a new species, they offered a choice: join the Council willingly or be conquered and then join anyway. Most species chose to join right away. The few that refused were quickly defeated and then given generous terms of surrender. Everyone ended up happy in the end. The Council had 12 member species, each bringing their own strengths to the alliance. The Zeltharians provided wisdom and planning. The hegemony offered industrial might. The crystal-based synthetics gave advanced technology. Together, they had created the most peaceful period in galactic history. "Send the message," Vextar ordered. The transmission reached Earth in 17 languages, translated by the Council's advanced computers. Every radio, television, and internet connection on the planet received the same message at the same time. "Greetings, people of Earth. We are the Galactic Council. We have watched your species develop, and we now offer you a place among the civilized worlds of the galaxy. You have two choices. Join us willingly, and we will share our technology and knowledge with you. Your people will know peace, prosperity, and long life. Refuse, and we will be forced to conquer your world. After your defeat, you will still join us, but the terms will be less favorable. You have 7 of your days to decide." In the White House, President Martinez stared at the message transcript. Around the conference table, the faces of world leaders appeared on screens, all looking equally stunned. The Secretary of Defense spoke first. "Ma'am, our military experts say that ship could destroy our entire planet if it wanted to. We need to consider their offer seriously." "Consider it?" The British Prime Minister's voice crackled through the speakers. "They're threatening to invade us if we don't surrender immediately." The Russian president leaned forward on his screen. "We need more information. What do they really want? What does less favorable terms mean?" President Martinez rubbed her temples. "Get me everything we can learn about that ship. I want every scientist, every military analyst, and every diplomat working on this. And get me a direct line to speak with these council members." The response from Earth came back to the council ship faster than Vextar had expected. A simple message: "We need more information before we can make this decision. Please send representatives to meet with our leaders." Admiral Kethmore's small eyes blinked slowly. "They want to negotiate? Most species either surrender immediately or reject us outright." "Perhaps they are more intelligent than most," Vextar replied. "Very well. We will send a delegation." The meeting took place in Geneva in a hastily prepared conference room. 3 council representatives sat across from a dozen human leaders. The alien visitors wore environmental suits that allowed them to breathe, but their strange shapes were still visible through the clear material. Vextar spoke through a translation device. "We appreciate your willingness to discuss this matter. However, you must understand that this is not truly a negotiation. These are the terms we offer to all species." Secretary of State Williams leaned forward. "And what exactly do these terms include?" "What happens to our governments, our military, our way of life? Your species will be integrated into the council structure," Admiral Kethmore explained. "Your military will be disbanded as there will be no more wars. Your governments will be reorganized under council guidelines. Your people will be educated in galactic law and customs." President Martinez felt her jaw tighten. "And if we refuse?" The third council member, a being that looked like living crystal, spoke in a voice like breaking glass. "Then we will demonstrate our capabilities. We will destroy your military forces. We will occupy your major cities. When your resistance ends, you will accept the same basic terms, but with additional restrictions and a longer integration period. How long? Asked the German Chancellor. Other species have typically surrendered within 50 to 100 of your days after we begin military action, Vextar said. The longest resistance we ever faced lasted 230 days. President Martinez looked around the table at her fellow leaders. She could see the fear in their eyes, but also something else. Anger. These beings had come to their world, threatened their people, and spoken about conquering Earth as if it was just another item on their schedule. We need time to discuss this among ourselves, she said finally. Of course, you have 4 more days. After the council representatives left, the room erupted in arguments. Some leaders wanted to surrender immediately. Others demanded resistance. A few suggested trying to buy more time. President Martinez called for quiet. Before we make any decision, I want to ask everyone a simple question. Has anyone here ever known Americans to surrender without a fight? The British Prime Minister nodded slowly. The same could be said for the British. And Russians, added the Russian president. And Germans and French and Chinese. Others chimed in. President Martinez stood up. These beings seem to think they know how humans behave. They think we'll fight for a few months and then give up. Maybe other species work that way. But they've never met humans before. The Japanese Prime Minister spoke quietly. My grandfather fought in World War II. He used to say that Americans were the most terrifying enemies because they never knew when they were beaten. The question is, President Martinez continued, do we prove them right about us, or do we show them what humanity is really made of? When the answer came back to the council ship, Vextar read it twice to make sure the translation was correct. The people of Earth reject your ultimatum. We will not surrender our freedom, our independence, or our way of life. If you want to conquer Earth, you will have to fight for every inch of it. Admiral Kethmore's thick fingers drummed on his console. This is unexpected. Usually species either surrender immediately or make threats they cannot back up. This sounds like they actually intend to fight. They cannot seriously believe they can defeat us, Vextar said. Perhaps they simply need a demonstration of our power. What do you suggest? Vextar studied the planet below. The humans had built space stations and placed satellites everywhere. They had even established small bases on their moon. Destroy their moon. When they see what our weapons can do, they will understand that resistance is pointless. And if they still refuse to surrender, then we will proceed with standard conquest protocols. How long can primitives with chemical weapons possibly hold out against us? The order was given, deep in the council ship. Weapons that could crack planets charged with power. On Earth below, 8 billion humans went about their daily lives, unaware that their world was about to change forever. The moon died at 3:47 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, torn apart by energies that humanity could barely comprehend. As the debris began to rain down on Earth, President Martinez stood at her window, watching the pieces of their ancient companion burn up in the atmosphere. They have no idea what they just did, she whispered to herself. They think they're fighting a government or an army. They don't understand. They just declared war on humanity itself. The pieces of the moon fell for 3 days. Some burned up in the atmosphere like shooting stars, but the larger chunks made it through. They crashed into oceans, creating massive waves that swept away coastal cities. They slammed into continents, carving new craters and throwing dust into the sky. The impact sites glowed like small suns. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the destruction from the emergency bunker beneath Geneva. She was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life, though until a week ago that had been purely theoretical work. Now she found herself as one of the few humans who might understand their new enemies. The tidal effects alone will kill millions, reported the emergency coordinator. Without the moon, our ocean currents are going crazy. Weather patterns are collapsing, and the debris field will make space travel impossible for decades. President Martinez had survived the impacts in her own bunker. Her face appeared on the screen, pale but determined. Dr. Chen, what can you tell us about their technology? Sarah pulled up the data they had gathered from scanning the council ship. Their weapons are based on principles we don't fully understand yet. Some kind of gravitational manipulation. But ma'am, we've recovered pieces of their probe ships that crashed when the moon exploded. I need to study them. Do it. Whatever you need. High Chancellor Vextar studied the reports from his ship's sensors. The destruction had been even more complete than expected. The primitive planet was choking on dust and debris. Their coastal civilizations were ruined. Surely now they would see reason. The communication came 12 hours later. President Martinez appeared on their screens, standing in what looked like a damaged building. Behind her, other humans moved back and forth, all of them working frantically on something. "Council ship," she said, and her voice was different now. Harder. "You have murdered millions of innocent people. You have damaged our world in ways that will take centuries to repair. We want you to know that humanity understands what you are now. You are not explorers or diplomats. You are destroyers, and humanity has always known how to deal with destroyers." Admiral Kethmore leaned forward. "Are you ready to surrender?" President Martinez smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. "Surrender? You still don't understand. You didn't attack a government or a military. You attacked our children, our families, our homes. Every human being on this planet now has one mission in life: to make you pay for what you've done." The transmission ended. Vextar stared at the blank screen. She cannot be serious. They have lost millions of people in their primary satellite. Their planet is barely habitable. "Perhaps we should send ground forces to accept their surrender," suggested Admiral Kethmore. Dr. Chen worked without sleep for 4 days straight. The pieces of Council technology were unlike anything humanity had ever seen, but they followed certain patterns. Everything was designed for beings who thought very differently than humans. The aliens built things to last forever, to work perfectly, to never need repairs or improvements. Humans built things to be fixed, modified, and improved. It was a fundamental difference in thinking. "General Torres," she called to the military leader who was coordinating the defense efforts, "I think I understand something important." General Marcus Torres had been a Marine before becoming a strategic planner. He was a big man with gray hair and hands that looked like they had built and broken many things. "What did you find, Doc?" "Their technology is incredible, but it's rigid. They design everything to work one specific way. Look at this." She showed him a piece of alien metal that had been part of a probe's hull. "This is stronger than anything we have, but it's exactly the same strength everywhere. It doesn't adapt or change, and human technology is messier, but it's flexible. We build things that can be modified, upgraded, repaired with whatever materials we have available. We're used to making do with less than perfect equipment." General Torres nodded slowly. "So we can't match their tech directly, but we might be able to use it in ways they never thought of." "Exactly. And General, there's something else. I've been monitoring their communications. They're not using any kind of encryption or security. I think they've never had to worry about anyone being able to understand their technology before." The Council's first landing ships touched down outside the ruins of New York City. Admiral Kethmore led the force personally, expecting to find defeated humans ready to surrender. Instead, his soldiers found empty streets and silent buildings. "Where are they?" asked Captain Zirakel, his second-in-command. "Hiding," Admiral Kethmore replied. "They will come out when they realize resistance is pointless." The explosion that destroyed the lead landing ship came from underneath the street. A human-made bomb, built from Council technology that had been scattered across the planet when the moon died. The blast was so powerful it created a new crater where half the landing zone used to be. More explosions followed. Buildings that had seemed empty suddenly sprouted weapons. Streets that looked clear became deadly traps. The Council soldiers, trained for formal battles between organized armies, found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once. "They are not fighting like a military force," Captain Zirakel reported as her unit took cover behind an overturned vehicle. "They fight like prey animals defending their burrow." But Admiral Kethmore knew that wasn't right either. Prey animals ran when they were outmatched. These humans attacked even when they had no chance of winning. Small groups of them would assault positions held by hundreds of Council soldiers, fighting until every last human was dead. Dr. Chen intercepted the Council communications from her laboratory deep beneath the Swiss mountains. She had learned to understand their language, and what she heard worried her. "They're confused," she told General Torres. "They keep talking about how humans don't behave like other species they've conquered. They're trying to figure out what's wrong with us." "What's wrong with us? We won't give up. General, I've been studying their records. Every other species they've encountered has surrendered after taking a certain level of casualties, usually around 10 to 15% of their population." General Torres did some quick math in his head. "We've lost maybe 3% so far, and that's mostly from the moon falling." "You're telling me other species quit after 10%? That's what their data suggests. And General, they have detailed psychological profiles of all the species in their council. Every single one evolved from prey animals, creatures that survived by running away, hiding, or submitting to stronger predators, and humans. Dr. Chen pulled up an image on her screen. It showed the skeleton of an early human ancestor. We evolved from persistence hunters. We killed things by chasing them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We're the predators, General. I don't think they understand what that means yet. 3 months after the moon's destruction, High Chancellor Vextar convened an emergency meeting of his senior staff. The conquest of Earth was not going according to plan. Our casualty reports? He asked. 17 ships destroyed or severely damaged, reported Admiral Kethmore. Over 3,000 soldiers killed or wounded. The humans have somehow learned to use our own technology against us. And their casualties? Difficult to determine. They do not appear to keep centralized records anymore. Best estimates suggest we have eliminated perhaps 5 million of them, out of 8 billion, less than 1%. Vextar's forearms moved restlessly. At this rate, it will take us centuries to conquer this world. There is another problem, said the ship's chief analyst. Our psychological evaluation teams report that council soldiers are showing signs of stress. The humans do not fight like other species. They take extreme risks. They sacrifice themselves for minimal tactical gain. Some of our troops are refusing orders to engage them directly. Vextar studied the tactical displays. Red marks showed human resistance activity. There were thousands of them, scattered across every continent. How is this possible? We destroyed their governments, their military commands, their communication networks. They appear to be organizing themselves, Admiral Kethmore said. Small groups acting independently, but somehow coordinating their efforts. And Chancellor, they are learning from each engagement. Their tactics improve each time we fight them. Dr. Chen's breakthrough came in the 4th month. She had been studying captured council equipment, trying to understand how their ships worked. The answer, when she found it, was both simple and revolutionary. General, they don't just have faster-than-light travel, she announced excitedly. They have instant communication across any distance. Every council ship is connected to every other ship in real time. Can we use that? Better. I think I can tap into their network. If I'm right, we can listen to everything they say to each other, everywhere in the galaxy. General Torres smiled for the first time in months. Do it. That night, Sarah Chen sat in her laboratory listening to the voices of beings from dozens of different worlds. She heard council ships reporting from systems hundreds of light years away. She heard administrative discussions about trade routes and colony planning, and she heard something that made her blood run cold. General, she called urgently, you need to hear this. The recording was from a council meeting held just hours before. High Chancellor Vextar's voice was clear. If these humans cannot be conquered, 3 years had passed since the moon died. Earth looked nothing like the world it had been. The oceans were different colors now, stirred by new currents that no longer followed the pull of the moon. Strange weather patterns brought snow to deserts and heat waves to polar regions. Most of the great cities lay in ruins, their populations scattered to underground shelters and hidden camps. Captain Zirakel of the Council Occupation Forces stood in what used to be London, watching her soldiers patrol the empty streets. Her species, the Morthak, had evolved from creatures that lived in deep caves. They were used to dark, confined spaces and patient hunting. But even her people were beginning to crack under the pressure of fighting humans. Report, she ordered as Lieutenant Vexlin approached. Another supply convoy attacked, Captain. The humans hit us 12 kilometers outside the city. Same pattern as always. They destroyed our vehicles, took what they could carry, and vanished before our reinforcements arrived. Casualties? 18 dead, 37 wounded. The humans lost approximately 40 fighters, but they achieved their objective. Captain Zirakel's mandibles clicked in frustration. This was the problem with fighting humans. They treated their own lives as acceptable losses if it meant hurting the council forces. No other species did that. When faced with overwhelming force, rational beings retreated and waited for better opportunities. Humans just attacked anyway. Captain, there's something else, the lieutenant continued. We captured one of their fighters alive. He's in the detention center now. Zirakel nodded. I'll question him myself. The human was young, maybe 20 years old in their reckoning. He had been shot twice and was bleeding from several wounds, but he sat upright in his chair and looked directly at her when she entered the room. Most prisoners couldn't maintain eye contact with their captors. It was an instinctual submission response that existed in almost every species. Humans apparently were different. "What is your name?" she asked through the translation device. "James Reed, Colonel, United States Marine Corps." "You are not a colonel. Our intelligence indicates you are part of an irregular resistance group with no official military structure." The human smiled, showing his teeth. Zirakel had learned that this expression could mean many different things when humans did it. This particular smile made her uncomfortable. "Ma'am, every human on this planet is military now. We don't have regular and irregular forces anymore. We just have 8 billion people who want you dead. Your resistance is pointless. We have superior technology, superior numbers, and control of your planet's orbit. Why do you continue to fight?" James Reed leaned forward slightly. "Because you attacked our home. You killed our children, and humans don't forgive that kind of thing. But you cannot win. Even if you destroy every council soldier on this planet, we have thousands of ships and billions of troops throughout the galaxy. Your species will be extinct within a generation." "Maybe," the human agreed, "but you'll remember us. Every time one of your people looks at the stars, they'll remember that there was once a species that never surrendered. That's worth dying for." Later that night, Zirakel sent her report to High Chancellor Vextar. Her hands shook slightly as she composed the message. The humans continue to display psychological patterns that do not match any known species profile. They appear to lack the basic survival instinct that drives rational behavior. Recommend immediate deployment of planetary cleansing weapons. On the Council flagship, Vextar read similar reports from commanders across Earth. The situation was becoming impossible to manage. They had conquered most of the planet's surface, but controlling it was like trying to hold sand in their hands. The humans simply flowed around their defenses, struck where they were weakest, and melted away before retaliation could come. Admiral Kethmore entered the command chamber, looking exhausted. "Chancellor, we have a new problem." "What now?" "Our psychological warfare specialists have been analyzing human communications. They've discovered something disturbing about their breeding patterns." Vextar's forearms moved impatiently. "Explain." "Most species reduce their reproduction rates during times of extreme stress. It's a natural response. Resources become scarce, survival becomes uncertain, so fewer offspring are produced." "The humans are doing the opposite. What do you mean?" "Their birth rate has increased by 30% since the invasion began. They're having more children during wartime, not fewer. And Chancellor, they're raising these children to fight. We have reports of human juveniles, some as young as 12 years old, participating in combat operations." Vextar felt a chill run through his long body. "Are you telling me that this species reproduces faster when under attack?" "It appears so. Our xenobiologists think it might be an evolved response from their past. When their ancestors faced extinction events, they increased reproduction to ensure species survival." "How many of them are there now?" Admiral Kethmore consulted his datapad. "Despite our best efforts, the human population appears to have actually grown since the invasion began. Current estimates place their numbers at approximately 8.2 billion. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Sarah Chen put the finishing touches on humanity's greatest achievement since the invasion began. The ship didn't look like much. It was built from salvaged Council technology, human materials, and pure desperation. But it worked. "General Torres, we're ready for the first test flight," she announced. Torres looked at the vessel with pride and amazement. It was ugly by any standard, with mismatched hull plating and jury-rigged systems exposed along its sides. But it was theirs. Built by human hands using human ingenuity. "How fast can it go, Doc?" "Faster than anything the Council has ever built. I've modified their drive systems using principles they never considered. Where they prioritize safety and reliability, I prioritize speed and efficiency." "And weapons?" Sarah smiled. "That's the beautiful part. I've been studying their technology for 3 years now. They build everything to work perfectly in controlled conditions. But what happens when you overload their systems? When you push them past their safety limits? They break? They explode. Spectacularly." The first human starship launched on a Tuesday, exactly 3 years and 4 months after the moon died. It accelerated past the Council blockade before their sensors could track it properly, and vanished into faster-than-light travel. Its destination was the Zeltharian homeworld, 1,200 light-years away. High Chancellor Vextar received the impossible news 18 hours later. "What do you mean, a human ship?" Our monitoring stations tracked an unknown vessel entering Zeltharian space. It appeared to be built from our own technology, but modified in ways we don't understand. Where is it now? Unknown, Chancellor. It performed several high-speed passes of our orbital installations, then disappeared again. But it broadcast a message. Let me hear it. The voice that came through the speakers was human, speaking in perfect Zeltharian. This is Commander Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Force. We wanted to let you know that we can reach any world in your territory whenever we choose. Your planet looks very beautiful from orbit. It would be a shame if something happened to it. Vextar felt his limbs go cold. How many more ships do they have? Unknown. Our intelligence suggests they have been building vessels in hidden facilities across their planet. We have no way to determine their capabilities or numbers. That night, for the first time since the invasion began, Vextar called an emergency session of the full Galactic Council. Representatives from 12 species appeared on holographic displays around the conference chamber. The situation on Earth has become untenable, he announced. The humans are not responding to conquest in any predictable way. They continue to resist despite overwhelming losses. They are reproducing faster under stress, and now they have somehow developed interstellar travel capabilities. Counselor Thekra of the Synthetic Collective spoke first. Her crystalline form shimmered as she processed the information. How is this possible? Their technology was barely adequate for interplanetary travel when we first contacted them. They have been reverse engineering our equipment, Admiral Kethmore explained, but they're not copying it exactly. They're modifying it, improving it in ways our engineers say should be impossible. What do you recommend? Asked Counselor Morden of the Hegemony. Vextar hesitated. In all his years of service to the Council, he had never faced a situation like this. I believe we need to consider the planetary cleansing option. The reaction was immediate. Several Council members began speaking at once, their voices overlapping in the translation systems. You're talking about genocide, said Counselor Yelten of the Peaceful Collective. I'm talking about survival, Vextar replied. These humans are unlike any species we have ever encountered. They do not respond to logic, threats, or overwhelming force. They appear to be biologically incapable of surrender. But surely if we offer them better terms, began another counselor. We destroyed their moon, Admiral Kethmore interrupted. Killed millions of their people. Occupied their world for 3 years. And their response has been to build starships and threaten our homeworlds. What terms could we possibly offer that would satisfy them now? Colonel James Reed escaped from council custody on his read-through. 5 years after the moon died, High Chancellor Vextar stood before a holographic display showing the current state of the galaxy. Red markers indicated human activity. There were far too many of them. Explain this to me again, he said to his intelligence chief. Commander Yelark, a member of the Insectoid Hive Collective, clicked her mandibles nervously. The humans appear to have established hidden colonies in 53 star systems. They're using captured council ships modified with their own technology. How is that possible? We've been blockading their homeworld for 5 years. They must have launched colonization ships before we established the full blockade. Or... Yelark paused, consulting her datapad. Sir, some of our missing ships may have been captured rather than destroyed. Vextar felt his 4 stomachs twist with anxiety. Are you telling me that humans are flying our own vessels? It appears so. And Chancellor, they're not just hiding in these systems. They're building industrial facilities, mining asteroids, constructing more ships. The display zoomed in on one of the red markers. This is the Kepler 442 system. Our long-range scouts detected significant industrial activity there last month. When we sent a patrol to investigate, they found orbital shipyards and mining operations. The humans had been there for at least 2 years. What happened to our patrol? They were destroyed, sir. The humans had built defensive platforms using modified council technology. Our ships couldn't get close enough to conduct a proper assault. Vextar studied the tactical analysis. The human weapons were crude compared to council standards, but they were effective. More importantly, they were unexpected. Council military doctrine hadn't been updated in centuries because no one had developed new weapons in centuries. There's more, Chancellor, Yelark continued. We've detected human activity near 3 council member homeworlds. They're not attacking, but they're watching. Watching? Observing our defensive positions, scanning our installations, mapping our trade routes. And sir, they're broadcasting messages. What kind of messages? They seem to be trying to communicate with our civilian populations, offering food, medical supplies, and technology in exchange for information about Council military movements. Admiral Kethmore entered the command chamber, his thick gray skin looking paler than usual. "Chancellor, we have a new problem. More human attacks? No, sir. We're losing entire ships to desertion." Vextar's long arm stopped moving. "Explain." "The crew of the destroyer Vigilant Honor has refused orders to attack a human colony. They claim the mission violates their species' ethical codes. The battleship Eternal Peace has requested transfer away from the Earth theater entirely. And sir, 3 ships have simply left their positions without authorization." "Where did they go?" "Unknown. They've disappeared from our tracking networks." Dr. Sarah Chen, now Director of Human Defense Technologies, stood in the command center of Outpost 7, hidden in an asteroid field 40 light-years from Earth. Around her, technicians monitored dozens of screens showing human operations across the galaxy. "Status report," she called. "Out. Colony ships Alpha through Delta have reached their target systems," reported Lieutenant Morrison. "All colonies are now self-sufficient and beginning industrial production." "Military construction?" "The new Geneva shipyards completed their 20th destroyer yesterday. The Armstrong facility is finishing work on our first heavy cruiser." Sarah nodded with satisfaction. The human expansion had succeeded beyond their wildest hopes. Every colony was a backup for human civilization, and every shipyard made them stronger. "Ma'am," called Technician Park from the communication station, "we're receiving a transmission from the Zeltharian homeworld. Council military traffic?" "No, ma'am. It's from civilian sources. They're responding to our food aid broadcasts." Sarah walked over to Park Station. For months, human ships had been dropping supplies and medical aid to Council worlds, especially those suffering from resource shortages. The Council military tried to stop them, but humans were better at hit-and-run tactics. "What are they saying?" "Thank you, mostly. But ma'am, some of them are asking questions about the war. They want to know why the Council attacked us in the first place." Sarah smiled grimly. "The cracks are starting to show. Continue the aid missions, but be careful. I don't want to lose any ships to Council interceptors." Captain Zirakel had been transferred to a desk job after her resignation from the occupation forces was denied. She now worked in the Council's Psychological Warfare Division, trying to understand human behavior patterns. It was the most depressing assignment she had ever received. "The latest analysis is complete," she reported to her supervisor. "The humans continue to demonstrate unprecedented resilience to psychological pressure." "Explain." "Normal psychological warfare relies on breaking the enemy's will to fight. You increase their casualties, destroy their infrastructure, and demonstrate the futility of resistance. Eventually, rational beings conclude that surrender is preferable to extinction. And the humans? They appear to interpret increased pressure as confirmation that they're winning. The more we attack them, the more convinced they become that we're desperate." Her supervisor, a tall Zeltharian named Torvin, studied the report with growing disbelief. "That's completely irrational." "Yes, sir. But there's more. Our psychological profiles suggest that humans have no biological surrender mechanism. Other species evolved instincts that prioritize group survival over individual pride. When facing extinction, they surrender to preserve the species. And humans evolved differently. Humans appear to have evolved a mechanism that prioritizes revenge over survival. When threatened with extinction, they become more dangerous, not less." Torvin set down the report. "Are you telling me that these creatures would rather go extinct than surrender?" "Our analysis suggests exactly that, sir. On Earth, the resistance had evolved into something the Council had never seen before. Instead of a traditional military hierarchy, humans had created a network of independent cells that shared information and resources, but operated autonomously. General Torres, now calling himself simply Marcus, coordinated activities from a mobile command center that never stayed in one place for more than a few days. He was reviewing casualty reports when Colonel Reed entered the shelter. "How bad is it?" Marcus asked. "We lost the Chicago cell yesterday. 53 people, including 12 children." James's face was hard, aged beyond his years by 5 years of constant warfare. "Council retaliation? They found the school we'd been using as a supply depot. Bombed it from orbit." Marcus was quiet for a moment. The death of children always hit him the hardest. "Any survivors?" 7. They're asking to be transferred to active combat units." "How old?" "The oldest is 14. Marcus rubbed his forehead. This was the reality of fighting the Council. Everyone was a soldier now, even the children. Approve the transfers, but keep them in support roles for now. Marcus, there's something else. We intercepted Council communications about their desertion problem. How many ships? At least 12 that we know of. And Marcus, some of them are trying to make contact with us. What do they want? To surrender. This was a new development. Individual Council soldiers had surrendered before, usually when cut off from their units and facing certain death. But entire ship crews? That was unprecedented. What should we tell them? Marcus thought carefully. Accepting surrenders would be the civilized thing to do. But these were the beings who had destroyed the moon, killed billions of humans, and occupied Earth for 5 years. Tell them they can surrender to the Council authorities when this war is over. We're not taking prisoners. High Chancellor Vextar received the request in the middle of the night. The message was from Councillor Thekra of the Synthetic Collective, and it was marked with the highest priority codes. Chancellor,
I must speak with you immediately about the human situation. Within minutes.
Vextar was in his private communication chamber, speaking with the crystalline being through a secured connection. What is it, Counselor? My people have been analyzing the long-term implications of this conflict. The results are troubling. Continue. If current trends persist, the humans will achieve military parity with the Council within 10 years. Within 20 years, they will surpass us. Their technology development rate is unprecedented. Vextar felt his limbs go cold. How is that possible? They're not bound by our safety protocols and design standards. Where we take decades to test and approve new technologies, they implement improvements immediately. They're advancing faster than any species in galactic history. What do you recommend? Chancellor, my people have reached a disturbing conclusion. If we cannot end this conflict within the next 2 years, we may face a situation where the humans become the dominant military force in the galaxy. Vexitar was quiet for a long moment. And if we use planetary cleansing weapons? The humans are no longer confined to one world. We would have to sterilize dozens of systems, possibly hundreds. The Council would never approve such massive destruction. Then what are our options? Unknown, Chancellor. My people have never encountered a situation like this. We are facing a species that refuses to lose, cannot be negotiated with, and grows stronger under pressure. From a strategic standpoint, they represent an existential threat to the Council. After the call ended, Vexitar sat alone in his chamber. 7 years after the moon died, High Chancellor Vexitar stood before an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The holographic forms of his fellow leaders flickered around the circular chamber, their faces showing expressions he had never seen before. Fear. The statistical analysis is complete, he announced, his forearms holding data tablets that contained the impossible truth. At current rates of technological advancement and territorial expansion, humanity will pose a direct threat to all Council member worlds within 18 standard months. Councillor Morden of the Hegemony spoke first, his thick voice carrying across the chamber. How can this be possible? 7 years ago, they couldn't even reach their own moon without chemical rockets. They learn, Vexitar replied simply, faster than any species we have ever encountered. Every piece of technology we deploy against them, they study, understand, and improve upon. Our weapons become their weapons. Our ships become their ships. But they make them better. The display behind him showed the current tactical situation. Red dots marked confirmed human presence throughout Council space. There were hundreds of them now, scattered across dozens of star systems. Councillor Thekra's crystalline form shimmered with agitation. My scientific collective has been monitoring their development. They have surpassed us in 17 different technological categories. Their ships are faster than ours. Their weapons are more powerful. Their manufacturing is more efficient. But surely their numbers are still limited, suggested Councillor Yelten of the Peaceful Collective. How many of them can there be? Admiral Kethmore, looking older and more tired than Vextar had ever seen him, activated his own display. Current intelligence estimates place the human population at approximately 12 billion individuals, spread across 68 star systems. The silence that followed was deafening. 12 billion, whispered Councillor Vectar of the Tree Singers. How is that possible? We've been at war with them for 7 years. They reproduce during wartime, Admiral Kethmore explained. Not only that, but they've developed life extension technologies based on our own medical systems. Their average lifespan has increased by 40% since the conflict began. Dr. Sarah Chen, now in her 50s but looking younger thanks to the life extension treatment she had helped develop, stood on the bridge of the human flagship Defiant Moon. Around her, officers coordinated the movements of the largest human fleet ever assembled. "Fleet status report," she called out. "All ships report ready." "Admiral," replied Captain Morrison, her former lieutenant who now commanded his own destroyer squadron. "We have 47 capital ships, 163 destroyers, and 308 support vessels." Sarah nodded. The human fleet had grown beyond anything the original resistance fighters could have imagined. More importantly, every ship was crewed by people who had grown up during the war. They knew nothing but conflict with the Council, and they were very good at it. Target status: the Council fleet is holding position at the edge of the Zeltharian system. 230 ships, including their flagship. "Intelligence suggests High Chancellor Vextar is aboard." Sarah studied the tactical display. The Council fleet was larger, but human ships had advantages the aliens still didn't fully understand. Speed, maneuverability, and most importantly, crews that were willing to take risks that would terrify Council commanders. "Ma'am," called Lieutenant Park from the communication station, "we're receiving a transmission from the Council flagship. They're requesting a parley. After 7 years, they want to talk?" Sarah almost laughed. "Put them through." High Chancellor Vextar's image appeared on the main screen. He looked much older than Sarah remembered from the early broadcasts. His tall frame somehow diminished. "Admiral Chen," he said, and his voice was different now, less certain. "I am authorized to offer the Council's terms for ending this conflict. I'm listening. Immediate cessation of hostilities. Human withdrawal from all Council territories. In exchange, we offer full recognition of human sovereignty over your current colonial worlds and a permanent non-aggression pact." Sarah was quiet for a moment, studying the alien leader who had ordered the destruction of her world's moon. "No. Admiral, please consider—" "No," Sarah repeated, cutting him off. "You came to our world. You threatened our people. You murdered our children. And now you want us to pretend it never happened? What do you want?" Sarah smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "We want justice, Chancellor. We want reparations for the billions you killed. We want guarantees that you'll never threaten another species the way you threatened us. And we want representation in your Council." "Impossible. The Council cannot—" "Then we'll take it." Sarah gestured, and the transmission ended. On the Council flagship, Vextar stared at the blank screen. Around him, his staff waited for orders that he didn't know how to give. "Admiral Kethmore, what are our tactical options?" The aging admiral consulted his displays. "Honestly, Chancellor, we could probably win this single engagement. Their fleet is smaller than ours, and our individual ships still have some technological advantages. But this isn't their only fleet. Intelligence reports suggest they have at least 6 more battle groups of similar size scattered throughout the galaxy. If we fight them here, we might win, but the cost would be enormous. And the other human fleets would simply continue attacking our homeworlds. So we cannot win a military victory." "No, sir. And Chancellor, there's something else you need to know. 3 more Council member species have withdrawn from the Coalition in the past month. They're seeking separate peace agreements with the humans." Vextar felt the weight of 7 years of failure crushing down on him. "Which species?" "The gentle minds, the star dancers, and the deep thinkers. They cite ethical concerns about the war's continuation." In his private chambers that night, Vextar accessed the classified reports that painted the true picture of the conflict. The Council had lost over 40% of its military strength. Economic disruption from the war had caused shortages and unrest on dozens of worlds. Most critically, the psychological impact of fighting humans had shattered the morale of Council forces. His aide, a young Zeltharian named Sylvan, entered with the latest casualty reports. "Chancellor, the desertion rate has reached 28% across all fleets. Several ships have refused orders to engage human forces. The crew of the battleship Eternal Vigilance has formally requested transfer to non-combat duties. And the humans? Their recruitment rates continue to increase. Latest intelligence suggests that 97% of adult humans are now actively participating in military operations in some capacity." Vextar read the report with growing despair. "How did you fight an entire species? Every human was a potential enemy. Every human colony was a military base. Every human ship was a weapon. Sir, there's one more thing. We've intercepted communications from human colonies. They're planning something they call Operation Homecoming. What is that? Unknown. But it involves a coordinated assault on Earth itself. The realization hit Vextar like a physical blow. After 7 years of warfare, the humans were strong enough to retake their homeworld. On Earth, General Marcus Torres sat in the ruins of what had once been Washington, D.C., watching Council transports lift off from the planet's surface. The occupation was ending, not because the Council had been defeated, but because they could no longer afford to maintain it. "They're really leaving," said Colonel Reed, now a grizzled veteran with scars from a dozen battles. "Not all of them," Marcus replied.
"But enough."
"The writing's on the wall, James. They can't win this war, and they know it." Above them, human ships filled the sky. The Liberation Fleet had arrived 3 days ago, and the remaining Council forces were evacuating rather than face another costly battle. "What happens now?" Reed asked. Marcus looked up at the ships carrying the human flag, a blue circle on a black field representing Earth's lost moon. "Now we finish this." The final Council session took place on the neutral world of Harmony Station. High Chancellor Vextar sat across from Admiral Sarah Chen, with representatives of the remaining Council species arranged around the conference table. "The terms are non-negotiable," Sarah said, sliding a data tablet across the table. "Full reparations for war damages. Dissolution of the current Council structure. Formation of a new galactic government with human representation proportional to our population and territorial holdings." Vextar read the document with growing amazement. The humans weren't just demanding victory, they were demanding to take control of galactic civilization itself. "This would make humanity the dominant power in the galaxy," he said. "Yes," Sarah agreed. "It would. And if we refuse?" Sarah's expression didn't change. "Then we continue the war until you accept these terms, or until the Council ceases to exist. Your choice." Around the table, Council representatives whispered among themselves. Vextar could hear fragments of their conversations. Fear, exhaustion, acceptance that this war could not be won. "We need time to consider." "No," Sarah interrupted. "You've had 7 years to consider. The offer expires in 1 hour." 57 minutes later, High Chancellor Vextar signed the document that ended the Galactic Council as it had tearing at the stars.